The mass extinction event at the end of the Cretaceous and beginning of the Paleogene opened a new geological era, the Cenozoic. This era began 66 million years ago and is still ongoing. During this period, Earth's surface underwent global changes and was home to countless strange creatures. The first stage of this new era is called Paleogene. The Paleogene era began right after the disaster that wiped out the dinosaurs and lasted for 43 million years. Earth's appearance changed significantly during this time. India crossed the ocean and collided with the southern shore of Asia. The Himalayas rose their peaks to the high sky, and Antarctica began to develop a giant ice cover. In the first 10 million years, Earth's biosphere was still recovering from the fatal blow. With the old overlords gone, flexible and resilient animals, mammals, quickly spread and occupied the empty ecological niches. On the journey to find new forms, life continued to evolve, creating the ferocious Andrewsarchus, the giant and sturdy Indricotherium, and the aquatic Pachycetus, prehistoric ancestors of today's whales. Many of these strange creatures went extinct without a trace, while others continued to evolve to adapt to changing conditions. About 23 million years ago, the Paleogene ended and was replaced by the Neogene, lasting about 20 million years. The Neogene is divided into two unequal epochs, in which the longer period is called Miocene. This was a period of slow and steady cooling. Earth's ice caps gradually developed, while the climate became colder and drier. Global sea levels began to drop. Conversely, mountain ranges like the Alps and Andes continued to rise. The result of this process was the Mediterranean Sea being cut off from the global ocean and nearly drying up. Instead, it became a vast land, covered with salt deserts. According to some estimates, temperatures in some areas there reached up to 80 C. While atmospheric pressure at the bottom of this basin was 1.5 times what we are used to. Only a few small lakes with extremely salty water scattered in the arid desert and lifeless. During that period, vast regions of our planet were home to countless strange creatures. Gigantopithecus, a giant human-like ape, related to orangutans, over 3 meters tall and weighing up to half a ton, about 500 kilograms, moved powerfully through dense Asian forests. Megalodon, a cloven hoof beast that ate meat and carrion, the size of a cow, terrified grassland creatures. While in its deep oceans, dominated by Megalodon, the largest predatory shark in Earth's history. A little over 5 million years ago, this area called Gibraltar witnessed a terrible earthquake. The rock dam separating the Mediterranean from the Atlantic for hundreds of thousands of years finally broke, and millions of tons of water flooded the giant lifeless basin. According to estimates, the force of the water was stronger than that of a large river, and it only took 2 years for the sea to fill up at the same time. Thousands of tons of salt layers of sand and rock, and are still there to this day. This event is called the Zanclean Flood, and is considered the beginning of the Pliocene epoch, lasting to point for 5 million years. At that time, the continents had drifted to positions we are familiar with today. However, the terrain was still forming. For example, North and South America were still separated by a wide strait, and the Rocky Mountains were just beginning to form. Earth's climate in the first half of the Pliocene was quite warm, with the planet's average temperature to 2-3 C higher than today. Although this difference was not evenly distributed, the climate globally at tropical latitudes was similar to today, but the northern regions were much warmer. The Arctic was not covered in permanent ice then, and dense deciduous forests stretched to the northernmost parts of Eurasia. However, it should be noted that the continental boundaries then were shifted south compared to today, because the average sea level at that time was about 25 meters higher than now, due to higher temperatures. Meanwhile, the first ancestors of lived in Africa. Excavated fossils of these ancient primates date back 2.46 million years ago. Their body structure was still very different from modern humans. These were highly evolved apes, but they had taken the first step in the evolution to a new form of life. The discovered skeletons show a trend toward upright posture, though tree climbing habits were still prominent. In terms of cranial capacity, it was larger than chimpanzees, and the tooth structure began to resemble later species. What forced these ancient primates to change so much? One reason could be that about 3 million North years ago and South America collided, causing a rapid uplift of the bedrock. The strait between the two continents was sealed by the blocking the warm ocean currents. At the same time, the Rocky Mountains rose significantly, creating a barrier between Atlantic and Pacific air flows. Combining all these factors, Earth gradually cooled, and some areas began to be covered by ice. The North Pole was covered in permanent ice. Greenland began to accumulate millions of tons of ice, while forests in Africa shrank.
sống gần với nơi có con non của Australopithecus. Rõ ràng xem chúng là con mồi dễ dàng. Neogene to lớn hơn báo hoa mai hiện đại, cơ thể vạm vỡ và khỏe hơn. Với trọng lượng lên tới 120 kg, chiều cao khoảng 70 cm. Khó được đánh bại bởi cá thể đơn lẻ. Có lẽ chỉ có thể xua đuổi bằng nỗ lực hợp tác của cả nhóm.
Of course, Dinosaurs not only hunted Ardipithecus, antelopes, or wild boars were also on its menu. Most of the main animals living on Earth then were similar to today's species. There were also real monsters in North and South America. There existed many species of flightless predatory Australopithecus family, with the largest individuals up to 3 meters tall, up to 75 centimeters mostly long, a large strong beak. Thanks to long muscular legs, this bird could run very fast, fortunately for humans. We didn't have to face these monsters because Australopithecus went completely extinct about 1.8 million years ago, before the first ancient tribes appeared in America. Primary forests were home to another giant, Dinosaurs. Been mistaken and misclassified as separate species. New archaeological discoveries help correct these errors and add important information. Despite many advanced features, Australopithecus still resembled apes more than humans. The first widely recognized representative of humans is Homo habilis, or handyman. Excavations show this species lived from about 0.3 to 1. They had more developed brains than Australopithecus and could make primitive tools. Average height about 1.2 meters. Weight about 50 kilograms. Interestingly, this is the first species with the big aligned toe with the other toes, like modern humans. A sign they had fully adapted to another important feature is the jaw structure, showing gradual development of language with clear syllables. Then evolved into Homo ergaster, working man about 2 million years ago, and Homo erectus, upright man. Scientists now classify these two species, or two closely evolved branches, or as two subspecies of the same species during migration. These human representatives settled in Africa, Asia, and Europe, creating conditions for many new evolutionary branches. One of those branches eventually gave rise to Homo sapiens, ancient humans. Whether Neanderthals lived in tribes or had no man, they hunted and gathered, so had to move constantly, expanding to unexplored lands. In that way, primitive tribes gradually settled all continents, except Antarctica. About 50,000 years ago, humans began exploring Australia. And about 24,000 years ago, they first set the spread of primitive tribes via the Bering Land Bridge. Coincided with mass extinction of animals. Giant Pleistocene animals 50,000 to 10,000 years ago. Woolly mammoths and Megatherium. The giant sloth disappeared from the planet, followed by saber-toothed cats and other predators. And able to compete for food, humans might have shared the same fate. If not for about 12,000 years ago, the Ice Age ended and Earth's climate became warmer and wetter. The fertile valleys of Mesopotamia and the Nile Delta to shift from nomadic life to settled farming, and then form true agricultural communities in the Neolithic Revolution. That was also the end of the Pleistocene, opening a new era in Earth's history, the Holocene epoch. Holocene is the period of strong growth with technical of human civilization and ecological devastating wars. By choosing a separate humans took the first steps out of Earth to completely new and unexplored territories. Only time will tell where that path will lead.